16, we selected a player that we've been watching for quite a while, and we're really excited about,杨瀚森. And it's a player I'm sure we'll talk a lot about him, but we couldn't be more excited. This is a very, very unique talent, in our opinion. He obviously great size at 7'2", young, just turns 20 tomorrow. High-end skill set. His ability to pass, his basketball IQ, his functionality in the post, his ability to step out. We think he'll, be a good free throw shooter. We think he'll make perimeter jump shots as well. Defensively, he's a really smart player that, can be pretty versatile in the post with his size and IQ. So, this is a player that, he's coming over to America. It'll be an adjustment, and it's our job to prepare him and develop just like we do all of our guys, but there'll be a big emphasis in pouring into him and getting him to his peak. There's also a reported trade from a few days ago. That trade call has not been finalized, so I can't talk about that today. So we'll circle back on that one once that gets done. Other than that, let's open it up.
Joe, can you walk us through the process leading to making this decision? When did you sort of fall in love with him, so to speak? And did you enter today thinking you were going to try and trade back to get other assets that you can use maybe for another trade or something like that, and then still get this guy?
Yeah. So to start, we've been scouting him deeply for almost 2 years now. We've had, we had a scout identify him during one of his under 18 events, and then we sent Mike and Sergi, our two assistant GMs, over to China that fall to go scout him live. When they came back from that trip, they left very, very impressed, and we were actually hoping he'd be in last year's draft. He didn't declare last year, so we continued to scout him for the last year, this last past season. And as we studied him more and more throughout this process through the spring, we saw him at the Combine, of course, met with him at the Combine, and then we're able to bring him in here and had a good workout here, and we're able to spend more time with him here. So, between our scouts identifying him early on and then some of our big key decision makers seeing him very early on, I felt like we had a big advantage in our scouting process and building our book on him as a player. Second question?
Did you guys enter the draft thinking we want this guy, we're going to trade down, get some other assets, and still steal him?
That's right. He was the target. The question is always how far can you move back and still have a realistic chance of getting him, and how viable is it that you can move back into that range that makes sense? So a lot of these trades that happen, during the draft, they're often on the clock. The team, you'll have a lot of things set up as far as what are the terms that we're looking at? What is this team willing to give in order to move up? And you try to, stack all those together and make decisions based on, okay, who's still viable now that they've seen what just happened at pick 10, and then make a decision and move back. And it worked out well for us. We thought we were able to move back 5 spots, pick up some nice assets, and still get our guy.
Joe, you looking at the mock drafts, and I know they're not making the picks, but you caught him totally by surprise. Nobody picked him to go in the first round, in fact, higher than 35. Yeah. Did you at all consider going farther back, or were you concerned that a team was going to pick him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good question. Yeah, the goal was to get as far back as possible. We didn't want to overdraft if we didn't have to. We weren't much more comfortable beyond 16 than that. So for us, it was too important to get him. We decided to do what some would call a reach. We decided to take that swing and overdraft technically a player that we just really valued. It shows what we thought of him.
Will he be definitely with the club next year, or is it possible that he stays in China for a year?
The plan is to bring him over here next year.
Joe, with the addition of...
He'd be definitely with the club next year.
Some would call a reach. We decided to take that swing and overdraft technically a player that we just really valued. It shows what we thought of him.
Will he be definitely with the club next year, or is it possible that he stays in China for a year?
The plan is to bring him over here next year.
Joe, with the addition of you've got 5 centers on the roster now. Do you worry about this being a complication if you are trying to have another transaction where you're trying to clear the deck to have an opportunity for him to get on the floor?
No, I'm not worried about. We have a lot of centers right now, a lot of good ones. I think we'll figure that out over time. You know, we approached every draft with we're going to draft the best player available, or we definitely make that a goal of ours, and this was no different. You know, and we'll figure it out afterwards. But we'll see how this summer goes, and you know who's here at the start of the season. But I expect even if all of them are here, okay, we have 5 centers. Let's figure it out.
Given the surprising nature of this pick, probably a lot to sort of unpack with it, but like, how would you say that, like, or could you describe kind of your vision for like all of this coming together in a cohesive way? Because like, I know you mentioned another deal you can't discuss, but it's like, that seems to be sort of like a very win now sort of pick, and this is maybe more of a developmental project as the draft pick. Like, how does this all come together in your mind?
Sure.
Well, I think in the draft in general, you know, especially if you're making a selection, you're treating that ideally in a vacuum where, you know, you're trying to get a talented player that is a long-term addition to your group. Yes, some teams draft for need, and some teams draft based on certain skill sets that can, you know, speed up their winning process. But generally speaking, I just look at the draft on its own. Like we need to go out for the Trailblazers. You know, you hear me say this all the time. We got to get more talented, and this for us was an opportunity to do that. And yes, adding another 20-year-old to this roster may not point directly to win now maneuvers, but you know, just trying to balance getting better for the long term and trying to maximize this roster for next season. So it's a delicate balance. I understand that.
The fan base online right now is having some issues accepting this, to be honest with you. What do you have to say to the fans about this draft pick and why they should not be concerned?
Because he's a very capable player, a very talented young man that has a very bright future. And I would just ask, give him some time, let him settle in and watch him grow. And I think everyone will be pleasantly surprised.
Joe, kind of following up on what Bill said, given how the end of the season went and other moves that may or may not be in the works, it's obvious that you guys are kind of trying to be more competitive in the short term next year. But how close do you think he is to being ready to play now on a team that's trying to be competitive?
I mean, he's a very capable player. His skill set is very, very advanced for his age. His physical stature, he's mature physically already. He's not a young, gangly guy. Like, he's strong and firm and sturdy and can withstand the strength of these NBA guys to a large extent. There's obviously a lot of work that we can. There's a lot of improvement that can still come as he grows and matures. But it's going to be an adjustment for every young player coming into this league. It's a whole new thing playing against these guys. These guys are really good. These systems are really intricate. Competition is very steep, both on our roster and the guys we're going to be playing against. So there'll be adjustments for him, just like every other guy drafted tonight. So, it's our job to get him there as quickly and as well as possible. It's, player development's critical for us, and I think it's something that we've done really well, and we're excited about this opportunity to, grow him into a good player.
Hi, Joe. Brennan mentioned the fan base. When you make a pick like this, are you thinking about the public reaction towards it at all, and how much does a selection like this show the faith and trust you put in your scouting department?
We care about our fan base. We want our fans to be excited about what we're building, where we're headed, what next season's going to look like, what the big picture looks like. Like, that's important to us. So, I think in times when we make what some would deem a questionable move, you hope that they just trust that we're doing our best to make the best decisions for this club, and that the fans will be patient with what we're trying to achieve. Like I said, with a young player like this, how do we develop him, and how do we help him take these steps to be an impactful guy for us?
Hey, John. Question. Curious. When you look at Jan, what do you think his career, his ceiling can be. I'm sure when you look at draft picks, you never think about, where they're going to be on another team or so. You always think of them being put you to the end. So I'm curious, where do you think his ceiling's like? Where, if everything goes right, where do you think he can end his career?
His ceiling's very high. It's extremely difficult to find a young player of that stature with this skill set. And it's translatable stuff that we've seen, really, really skilled big men that can do all the things that he can do, typically succeed in our league. Yeah, it might take him a little time, but as he figures out the speed and pace of our game and all these things, I wouldn't put a ceiling on him. He's that talented.
Joe, kind of similar idea there. How do you feel like a player like Yang at that position kind of fits into today's NBA?
Yeah. I mean, I think in these playoffs, one thing I've really noticed is the way these successful teams think the game. Their basketball IQ, their skill sets, their ability to make others and each other better is a critical component to winning these games. And that's what Young brings to this. I mean, his basketball IQ is very, very high, and he makes others better. And, that's what we're trying to do here is find guys that help supplement and build each other up. And it's something that he thrives at.
How much effort or inroads were made in maybe trying to trade this pick to get a veteran player that can help right away?
Mm-hmm. We approach this draft, we're always open-minded, with all these picks that we've had over the last few years, doing our due diligence, looking around, seeing, what existing roster players in the NBA are available, And last year you saw us, use one of those picks, the late lottery pick that we used on Denny. So if the right deal's there, we look at those kind of things. This time around, we took a lap with that pick. Didn't find anything we liked better than the opportunity to do what we did tonight.
Joe, is Chinese Jokic a fitting nickname for him?
Well, it's nobody's Jokic. That's a tough one. That's a big shoes to fill. But as far as his ability to pass the ball, there's not too many his size that can do it like he does.